And this year, before we introduce our award recipient, we're really excited to talk more about the Chiron Lecture. So the Chiron Lecture is based on Randy Pausch's last lecture, and it's kind of what our lecturer wants to talk about as if he was giving his last speaking event. We also award this event based on character and service, and it's a student-selected professor that's speaking, so we're really excited.
Thank you again for coming. And so, just like Mary Goody was saying, this is completely a student-nominated award, and so we collected a whole lot of nominations this year, and we meet with a selection committee of student leaders from all across campus, and when we read through all the nominations, it was just so clear who the winner was. And we codified everything, so you don't know who you're reading about. And when I was reading through the nominations, I thought that this one was really standing out. And the reason it was because I had just met Jed, a week prior at the Carolina Challenge when I was timing people's ventures. And I remember so clearly as he was running out of the room and back in and back out and back in. And at first I was like, what in the world is going on? But all of a sudden I realized he was going back and forth between judging these teams and helping students in his class. And I just thought that was so amazing. And when we chose him as the award winner, it just was incredibly fitting, and I think he is incredibly deserving of this award. And so I don't want to take up too much time because I know exams are coming up and y'all are dying to hear what he has to say. So I'll just bring him up now if he's ready.
First of all, I'll get to you guys in a minute. Can you guys all hear me okay? I'm going to break all conventional wisdom of giving a lecture with notes and actually read from the script. So, first of all, I do want to share the fact that as winning is probably the most exciting thing for me to win, besides having you guys here, is there's actually a Chiron donation that's made. And that money is going to be actually going to my daughter Ella's project in Uganda, which is a center for hope that they're building for kids for literacy, technology, and creativity. So more about Ella in a minute. So I'm really excited about that donation. So good evening, and thank you all so much for coming. For those of you who know me best, you might think that I would actually prefer to be playing pond hockey or a Springsteen concert. But not today. I'm so honored to be here. I want to thank the students who nominated me. I want to have a public conversation with you guys. I've been a professor for less than a year. And I've been mostly focused on what to say tomorrow in my class, usually preparing just minutes before. And you guys think I'm ready for my last lecture. Well, this is the university's way of saying, thanks for the year, you're out of here. Too bad. I really love it. And I'm here to actually hope that I can earn the right to be a Chiron winner. In my class, we start off all the classes with something called a blast. So for those of you that have gathered, you might actually think, if you know anything about this, that I'm actually going to sit here and spend most of the time talking about media and technology as something like this, that Google actually has put on their schedule at the I/O Conference 2016, that 7 of the sessions are going to be about virtual reality. That's not what we're going to talk about today. So I hope you don't mind the risk that I've taken to go way off script, although I said I do have it. When Emmy and her fellow students let me know that I'd chosen for the Carolina Chiron, I was flattered, but I was a little embarrassed. On this campus, there are so many deserving teachers and professors, a few in this room, as exhibited by the Chiron winners before me. So why me? I'm a rookie in the world of excellence. After not sharing my selection for a couple of days, meaning I told nobody, I spoke to 2 people who really helped me. First, my wife Janet, who's here. And she only raised my anxiety and embarrassment by how excited she was. And I said, why me? I'm so embarrassed. But her words rang true. She said, look, sweetie, the students have spoken, and that you must honor. Janet has always been that understanding voice at moments that matter. Her words took root. Then I called Jeremy Petranka, the 2013 winner. He too shared how important it was that the students had voted. And I should not only accept it, but I should embrace it and do what I can to go out of the box. So here I am. Last week I spoke to last year's Chiron winner, Brian Hogan, who said the same thing. I've spent the last 15 years helping to give independent creators a voice without the approval of gatekeepers. So I had to listen to the students, and again, I accept your guys' award and everything that you've done for me to be here. So then came the next problem, my last lecture. What to talk about? Then I got this from my daughter Ella, who, by the way, is on Skype here at 5:30 in the morning from Perth, Australia. No means yes. These were her words. She's studying at the University of Canterbury in Christchurch, New Zealand. She's a junior here at UNC. She closed her text by telling me how proud and happy she was. Then two things came to me. First, while I've not taught in the classroom very long, I've been a teacher for 30 years in media and technology, sports, entertainment, and news. And during this time, I've been privileged to hire, mentor, manage, and learn from a long list of talented young people who are both interesting and interested, who are both naive and powerful. But it's as a mentor and a teacher to many interesting, talented, naive, strong, and vulnerable, and diverse people, including my own kids, the most critical of all. Second, this note gave me the subject for my talk. I may have impacted a number of people's lives, but it's only because my life was impacted by others. So for my last lecture, I choose to share not my wisdom or lessons gathered along the way. Rather, I would like to share that of a few people I've met and the wisdom they imparted on me and a few stories along the way. Therefore, for my last lecture, and then I met life's unplanned meetings and their impact on my life. When I graduated from Duke, I went to work for ABC Sports as a production assistant on the 1984 Summer and Winter Olympics. We were charged with doing small stories and athletes' favorite to win the medals. These up-close and personals were a key part of ABC's coverage. I had grown up around sports, which you'll hear a little bit more about in a minute. So I had been around big events, production people, and athletes my whole life. I knew the events were exciting and high profile, and the people producing them were smart, focused, and a little crazy. So then I walked on the 10th floor at ABC in the fall of 1982, and I felt ready. But I had no idea that this guy would have an impact that would go way beyond my first job. This is Bryce Weissman. He was the expert at up-close and personals and profiles, as he liked to call them. He was a perfectionist. He approached each athlete's story as an artist approaches a canvas or a filmmaker approaches a scene. Bryce saw every shot as art, every word as a story. He would take his time and everyone else's to get it right. His reputation around ABC was he was a loner, very tough to please, and a jerk to work for. Some might actually say an asshole. And Bryce loved nothing more than the difficult assignments. Hungary, Yugoslavia, Moscow, Russia. Typically, PAs would rotate amongst the producers. But for some reason, Bryce decided I was his guy. Another PA went on a shoot with him for one time. She cried every night, came home and said, I never want to see him again, let alone go on the road. For most of 2 years leading up to the games, I worked with Bryce. We went to East Germany twice. The Cold War and the Iron Curtain were still on. I joined him in Switzerland, Austria, Germany, and Yugoslavia. The Balkan states were one. We went to China, which was the assignment because the Chinese athletes were coming to the Olympics for the first time in 50 years. Bryce was everything I heard in the world. He was demanding. We worked incredibly long hours as forever strive for the perfect light, the perfect words, or the perfect moment. He was not easy on mistakes, and production assistants were always the ones that made them. And if not, they didn't make them, we were always blamed for them. Often I felt like I was in the set with Fellini or Coppola or Hitchcock. not that of an Olympic athlete profile. At night, after long days with an early start for the morning, Bryce always insisted on a team dinner. You really wanted to get away from him, but you had to go to dinner in the great restaurant for a bottle of wine with schnapps or slivovitz or whatever local shop there was to have. And it wasn't one, it was usually free. It was just often our team, but sometimes our local hosts would join. I remember sitting once in Oberhof, East Germany, with one of our local hosts, listening late into the night as he talked about life in the East. Life without the privileges of what we had in the West, as tears filled his eyes. Bryce had an ability to honor the athletes in their communities as he captured their stories. At times, I was not sure I liked Bryce. He was hard to like and impossible to love. But when I started to think about this talk and the people who have had some of the most impact in my life, I thought back on Bryce and what I learned from him. When I left ABC to go to business school, I didn't stay in touch with him. I think I last saw him in 1985 or 1986. Bryce died in 2006. I tried to find his obituary. I'm not even sure there was one. The last time I saw him was over 25 years ago, but the impact still remains. As I reflect on him and what's worth passing on, he taught me the importance of being prepared. Janet jokes about as to my kids, go on a hike with me, and sure enough, in my backpack, I'm going to have socks and supplies and books and blankets, you name it, dry socks. As an ABC Sports PA, you better be prepared, especially on the road with Bryce Weissman. Bryce taught me about excellence. At the time, I was annoyed because he was a perfectionist, but now when I reflect, I realize he strived for excellence. He felt the audience deserved it, and so did the athletes' stories. We joked at times that Bryce tried to be a filmmaker, and all we were doing with these darn profiles. But now I realize he was a storyteller, and his subjects were these athletes off the ice, out of the gym, out of the pool. He would share their stories through excellence or not at all. He taught me the importance of respecting local customs and cultures. As a 21, 22-year-old in small villages and bigger cities in China and East Germany, Yugoslavia, you name it, I would roll my eyes when Bryce went out of the way to honor hosts with deliberate attempts, vows as he put it. When I would look back over my life of traveling, living in London and raising a family in Europe, and doing business all over, I realized what he instilled in me, local customs first, and a way to approach each visit as if an invited guest who planned on staying for a long time and wanted to be invited back. In 1992, I was a young executive at Turner Broadcasting. We had bought the Hanna-Barbera legendary cartoon studio. I had moved from Atlanta to Los Angeles and was privileged to be charged, look at me, with managing the future of the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear, and my favorite, Top Hat. It also gave me an office next to Joe Barbera and a weekly tea or coffee with Bill Hanna. While I was excited and committed to the legendary 300-person studio, I was 31 and managed only one person in my life and had no idea what to do. And then I met this guy. Fred Seibert and I were a shotgun wedding. My boss said Fred was coming to lead the studio and I would be his top deputy. He's in from New York, go have lunch with him and get started. I wasn't surprised as the guy we had running the studio really wasn't the fit. But still, go have lunch with your new boss and get started. It didn't work that way, at least not for me. I was supposed to meet him, I was supposed to have input, and I was supposed to have a vote. But that's not how my boss worked. He made the decision, was on to the next big idea that Ted had in his mind. I was pissed, but off to lunch I went. From the moment I sat down with him through today, he's been my greatest business partner and professional mentor. He's had the most impact on how I think about business, take risks, manage and work around creative talent, build brands, and simply go for it. I could stand here for the next hour, even day, and talk about Fred and all our nearly 25 years partnership and friendship. All I'd have to do is talk about he's the second employee in MTV where he helped create the MTV logo, and forever I want my MTV slogan. We could talk about his brilliance while running his own agency and the creation of the Comedy Central, what led to South Park, what led to Jon Stewart, what led to Stephen Colbert. We could talk about his life in cartoons and the discovery of talent which resulted in Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Bravo, and the Fairly Odd Parents.
Fred talks about his lives and business. First as a jazz guy in radio. Second as part of the launch of cable. Number 3, building his own agency. I joined him for number 4, Fred the cartoon visionary. And was there for most of number 5, the community and video on the internet, where he was the genius behind our company, Next New Networks, and was the first guy behind David Carp when he was playing first with Tumblr. If you dare to read Fred's bio, which I suggest you all do, he credits being crazy as not such a bad thing. At 64, Fred keeps living. Fred keeps inventing. Fred keeps building. Fred keeps meeting new people and then inspires them to do their thing. I've learned so many things from Fred, but my greatest takeaway from this crazy jazz cat who had influenced pop culture in so many ways is saying no to ideas is easy. But saying why not is much more fun and can lead to some really good things. Fred discovers young talent with new ideas, often a creative one. He always listens to their story, and if he believes them, he says, why not? I've watched more people come out of his office inspired to even try, even though failure clearly has the highest probability. When I asked Fred to share some of his thoughts for his last lecture, he focused on being happy at work each day and standing the people you work for. My life with Fred was just that. I was happy being at work with him and with the teams we built, and I could absolutely stand him. Fred's always talking about talent and teams. In one of the many essays he's published, he talks about great teams and the secret to a successful team, especially like Joe Barbera and Bill Hanna. The essay states the secret as the way the two members complement each other. He goes on to say that's complement with an E, meaning complete. What one party lacks, the other supplies. The talents of one individual help to bring out the best in the other. I look back on that lunch in 1992 as the most important meeting I've ever had. I could have not liked him and left. He could have not liked me and said, see ya. But instead, he started a conversation, a friendship, and a life together, inspiring, being inspired, and complimenting. I've lived a lot of lives. I was born and raised in Connecticut and New York, went to college in Durham, then up to Hanover, New Hampshire. My first job was in sports, as I just shared. Then I tried banking in London. I loved London, but I hated banking. Next came Turner Broadcasting, which, as I shared, was an incredible and life-building experience. Best of all, it took me to Atlanta, where I found my partner in life, then LA and London. We were in London when Ted sold the company. I was done with the bigger corporate world, and the internet was really taking off, so I joined Excite, one of the companies at the center of the search engine race. Life in London was incredible. That's me. It's actually switching. So I joined Excite, one of the companies at the center of the search engine race. Life in London was incredible, which I just said twice. It was fun to be part of the emergence of the internet, Yahoo, Netscape, AOL, Microsoft, and Excite. These were the companies that mattered at the time. We didn't know of the work going on in the basement at Stanford that would result in Google. We were about to find out. Amazon was just getting started, and we hadn't even come close to meeting YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, LinkedIn, BuzzFeed, Uber, or Waze. By 2001, the world had changed. The internet bubble had hit, and September 11th had happened. Jan and I had gone to London in 1995 with a 10-week-old baby girl in hand, and been in London for 7 years. We built an incredible life, mostly due to our friends. We owned a home and 2 cars. We're now a family of 5, Elle at 7, Streeter at 4, and Xander, our newborn, who's also here in the back hiding. We were incredibly in love with each other in our London life. But the world had changed. The naysayers had put their ties back on, and we were walking around saying, we told you so. When those planes hit the towers, we no longer felt innocent. We're safe the same way, and home felt really far away. We loved London, but became open to going back, but only for something really special. Then I met and went to work for this guy. Robert Redford has built something special with Sundance. He had lots of land, a resort, a TV channel, a film festival, a creator institute, a catalog, and a couple of stores. Not to say also a farm. Nestled in the mountains of Utah in the middle of the Mormon home and culture, Bob, as he's called, Stood for independence and creative freedom in the arts, and that was Sundance. Hard to get to, but once there, it was just that. But my talk's not about what I did in life, but rather it's about a few people I've met and the things I've learned from them and admired. While it was powerful, frustrating, exciting, and motivating to work for him, my greatest takeaway from this time was not the iconic Redford or the incredible brand Sundance or the movies that I saw. If you ask me who my mentors are, my thought partners, I will talk about my mom and dad, I'll light up with stories about Fred, I'll go on about Janet, and I'd want you to know Peter Parmesan. Peter came into my life at Sundance. He had spent his career in real estate in San Francisco, Napa, and other parts of Northern California. He'd met Janie Redford, Bob's son. We were desperately trying to come up with a solution for the village and the land at Sundance. As is the case in my life, some of the most important and impactful people were somewhat put upon me. I walked in a meeting and there he was. I didn't find Peter, but boy was I happy Janie did. For over a year, Peter became my rock. I was in my early 40s and pretty comfortable in my career around all things media and entertainment. But now I was charged with helping solve problems at a resort with a ski mountain surrounded by a tiny, very opinionated community and big issues relating to water and ownership in a state whose Mormon culture and values were not always consistent with those of Sundance. And most of all, it was also owned by Robert Redford. Peter was an artist around complexity, especially relating to protecting land, embracing community, rebalancing economics, and being creative around very personal problems. Peter and I spent a year working on our Sundance Preserve. We weren't able to build it together while we were there, for too many reasons to talk about. But many years later, when Bob was able to put finishing touches on the Sundance Village, it was Peter's master plan that still stood as the foundation of the ideas. Peter didn't leave my life, even though we both left Sundance. If I have any skills, one of them is finding people who will stay with me in my life for a long time. Peter is one of them. Peter's Long Island Italian upbringing, I love that, makes him as authentic and as honest as anyone I've ever met. Peter never had kids, but he found Christy his partner in life during his 50s, marrying her when he was 60. We haven't worked together for more than 10 years, but he still remains that person I call and lean on often. When he talks, I listen. He has an ability to not tell you what to do, even though that's what you want him to do. Peter has an incredible ability to join you in your thinking, ramp up your excitement, or tone down your frustration. Walk through and break down the complexity of an opportunity or a problem. Peter has become a life coach and a great friend. When I was thinking about coming here and taking the ERO role and coming to teach, I went to Palm Springs to visit Peter and Christy and their awesome dog, Ted. I desperately wanted Peter's thoughts on how I would teach, what I would teach, and generally some confirmation that my thoughts for teaching were smart and right for you guys. We took a walk in the hills above Palm Springs. For 3 hours, I grilled him with my thoughts about media, entrepreneurship, startups, connections, career, and me. Peter made me feel so good about my decision. The most important thing I took away from Peter that day, though, was how to think about how I can help you guys become indispensable. I can't teach you to be an entrepreneur, but I can give you a foundation of skills and thinking that helps make you indispensable. No matter what you do, then maybe one day you'll have that idea or a problem to solve and the foundation to draw from. As I'm prone to do, and you can tell for this talk, I asked Peter what the message of his last lecture would be, and these were his thoughts. Find one's passion. Dreams are important. Never stop having them. Fred, my dad, who I'll talk about, are great examples of that. Without visions, it's really difficult, if not impossible, to become a leader. So true of people like Fred, Ted, and Robert Redford. Be self-critical. The best leaders are always focusing on improving. They know what's missing and are fanatical about making corrections. I'm still working on that one. It all comes down to integrity and honesty with yourself and others in everything you do. Therefore, set the standard by living up to both. This is my dad, and it's absolutely Peter. I hope one day I can say it's about me. At the beginning of your career, seek out leaders and organizations with these qualities and you'll do just fine. My professional life has brought me some great places. I've done some amazing things and I've met incredible people. The learnings from Bryce, Fred, and Peter are some of my most important. When I graduated school, I had no idea where this journey would take me. I could have stayed in television and sports forever. I could have become the cartoon guy. I could have been all in on the internet. But I took advantage of the opportunities as they came and had a career that's given me the chance to build my own and blend it all together in my life's work. I clearly have been lucky to work for and next to some strong influences. And often we think of our bosses and advisors as our most important, but not always. Carlton Clay walked into my office within the first few days of moving to LA. I was the guy from Turner. I had an office too big for me and lots of inquiring animators wondering what Ted was going to do now that he bought the studio. That's not very comfortable. And as I shared, I was next to Joe Barbera on a once-a-week date with Bill Hannon. And in comes this 6'5" black dude, dressed quite nicely and with the biggest smile and the warmest handshake I probably have ever met. I was the new guy and he came in and let me know that he was ready to help me learn about this place. He said he worked in the studio's audio department, drove Bill and Joe around, and was a DJ for people like Magic Johnson. When he left, I was a bit confused. Who was he? What did he do? What was I supposed to do with him? See, one of my roles was to evaluate every part of the studio and decide who we needed and who we didn't. For the next few months, Carl would often stop by just to see how I was doing, see how he could help, occasionally drive me to the airport. In the back of my mind, I still wondered if we needed him. But in the front of my mind, I was developing a friendship that's lasted for 25 years. You see, he was a kid from the projects of Newark and Brooklyn, who had played some ball but needed to get away, so he dropped out of college, came west, and never went back. He had enough money for a one-way bus ticket to LA from back east. Back home in the projects, he was surrounded by drugs, AIDS, and people going nowhere. He came to LA where he first was a doorman, and then he got odd jobs at the Hanna-Barbera studio. He worked hard and gained the trust of everyone, but most importantly, that of Bill and Joe. I started to notice a couple of things. He always had a smile, had a great laugh, knew lots of small and important things about the studio. Everyone loved him, but most importantly, he took to my Janet. And more importantly, she fell for him. And then I noticed something about me. I love being around Carl. And I crossed that work and social line. We started hanging out outside the studio. We'd go to games. I took him to his first LA Kings game. He'd have dinner with Jan and me, friends, and my family. And boy, could this Newark, Brooklyn kid eat. He became a really important part of our life. We've known each other for a long time, and he's given me some of my most important lessons. First, from that first time he walked in my office, as confused as I was, to the time he took a trip to Koreatown shortly after the Rodney King's riots had ravaged LA. We're a black guy from the projects of Newark and Brooklyn and a white Jewish kid from the nicer parts of New York City and Old Ranch. We just had to see it in person, what we've been watching on TV, and we wanted to do it together. There we were among the aftermath of racial tension, anger, violence, and stupidity. Shop owners were still on top of their stores with rifles in fear of looting. The police were everywhere and the curfew was still in place. My kids and family have taken to Carlton. My youngest son, Xander, would count his top things to do, hanging out with Carlton, shopping for Liz, checking out Drake's store in La Brea, or DJing on Carlton's gear. I've learned so much in my time with Zap, as his friends call him, but mostly I've learned about holding judgment as you learn someone's story. I've learned that color and background are just surface differences. As you might imagine, I've asked him what he would do in his last lecture, and he shared with me 3 lessons. The importance of listening and making eye contact to determine who's honest and who's wasting my time. Everyone wants to talk, but not everyone wants to listen. The importance of a positive attitude. Even if you didn't come from a great family situation or a good education, you may or may not be a 6'5" black guy from Brooklyn like me, but if you have a great attitude, people will become comfortable with you over time, and it will lead to relationships in your life beyond your imagination. Making wise choices. When I, meaning Carlton, grew up back east, there were times when I almost got caught up in the bad choices my friends made. I remember one time my decision not to go with friends saved me from a murder rap. You got to think for yourself, because when things go bad, everyone goes away except for your parents. As some of you can tell, I've lived a lot of places. I've lived my life in twos: Greenwich, London, LA, Atlanta, and now Chapel Hill and Durham. So when deciding these thoughts I wanted to share, my problem became deciding who to focus and what wisdom to share. I wanted to talk about my two favorite professors, Bruce Payne from Duke and VG from Tuck. Bruce was not only an incredible teacher, but an openly gay professor teaching public policy in classes like ethics and morality in the 70s and 80s. VG shared so many insights on business, strategy, innovation, and teaching, but no more memorable than "you must have green in the cash box." Coupled with his ability to help even the simplest of the students, which some of you guys will know, how to peel the onion. I wanted to talk about Troy Ward, a top-level hockey coach who, recognizing how much time he lost with his sons because of the demands of coaching in the road, started a father, son, and daughter hockey camp in the summers based in Minnesota. Troy's commitment to teaching, building, excellence in his staff, and constantly innovating made the camp something I ran to for 8 summers with my boys. I regret Ella never came. As good as the coaching was, Troy never let us forget that his camp was for time with your kids. Time with your dad. Mostly he reminded us all of the importance of a big hug. As Troy says goodbye at the end of every session, he does 3 every summer. He asks every kid to find their dad and give them a big hug. It's easy for a 7 or 8-year-old to do. But go ahead and ask a 15 or a 16-year-old to do that in front of all his friends, or her friends. I asked Troy what his last lecture would include, and he shared this. What survives the games is our relationships, and those relationships can shape up as we grow older. You'll remember certain games, but mostly you'll remember your teammates for life. I think we can carry that well past sports. I also wanted to share the story of my in-laws. This is Jan and John. Most people talk about them in the context of his career as a visionary architect and a developer who helped shape cities. I could fill this whole talk in his career accomplishment and philosophies, but that's for him and others. Don't get me wrong, and he will watch this, so I want him to know I admire his accomplishments immensely. But what I've learned from these two is about the power of a couple. They met in Atlanta when he was an usher at a movie theater and she was a teenager at the movies. Their meeting and love affair are a first screenplay. I married Jana in 1994, just shy of Jan and John's 50th wedding anniversary. We've been married almost 22 years, and this year they celebrate 71. They've gone through many highs, including 19 grandkids and 5 great-grandkids, and some real lows, including battles with cancer and losing a son, and too many friends to count. We've spent an incredible amount of time with them, too many places to remember, but nothing means more to me than their commitment to each other. She can't stand a night away from them, although they've already had 25,000. They hold their hands, watching TV, taking a walk on the beach, sitting next to each other at dinner. John has sat me down countless times to share his philosophy on life and work and family. Inspired by Emerson, it is truly that of novels and business legend. Jan stands next to Jana and me whenever we do, no matter what, especially when it comes to all things Ellis Streeter and Xander. But nothing they have said or supported has meant more to me than the way they have loved each other during my 20-plus years with them. 50 years of marriage is incredible. Surely it's got to be really hard. But they're at 70, and in love as if he was showing her a seat at that movie theater for the first time. Life has not been all highs, nor have all the lessons or wisdom come from what people have said or accomplished. Some have come from loss and struggle. One in particular. I didn't do this one, friends. We lost Raul Castells on September 21st, 2014. It's been 18 months, and I think of him often. I think of the life he could have had. I I think of where we would be heading this fall to join, he'd be heading this fall to join freshmen all over the country. I think of his family gathering for graduation this spring. I think of the laughter every night in his room. I think of the struggle he would have as an 18-year-old in this world of social media and intense pressure to achieve your life and title. Most of all, I think about this city kid who loved everything New York, especially the Yankees and Giants, who had more friends than one could wish. He loved style and great political debate. He loved to lead and had a merry band to follow. And I think of a person truly vulnerable, who often showed it and was comfortable with it. Raul was our son Streeter's best friend. They met in 8th grade and became a pair. Raul, the son of a Peruvian mom and a Cuban dad. The excitable boy, the great New York sports fan who loved to be on the go. Streeter, son of a Connecticut dad and Atlanta mom, the athlete who loved to take naps. These two sweet kids were going to be lifelong friends. But life has a different plan. Raul and Streeter both struggled with anxiety in school. They both struggled with alcohol and drugs. Of course, it's easy to flag at his high school learning experiences, but they both went too far. One got help, and the other didn't wake up. When it all happened, you'll notice I'm not looking at Jim. When it all happened, Streeter and his friends gathered in New York, as did the rest of us in our family, up at the campus where they had all met. It was truly a band of brothers. Streeter gave the friend's eulogy. He was 16 years old and talking about the friend he lost. Hundreds were gathered and tears and wonder filled all of our minds. Why? How could it happen? What are we going to do to our kids? What are we doing to our kids? We're doing this right, or we're just holding on for dear life. And why at 18? Life is precious, given and taken in short moments. The last time we saw Raul was at our house in Atlanta for Thanksgiving a couple of years ago. It was so fun, so ready for life. I long for that time. I long for Raul. I think about Streeter and Raul's friendship. Of course, I think about what could have been. More, I find great comfort in Streeter's words, where he expressed no anger, no guilt as he spoke to his friends. He just shared stories of his friends' life with love and laughter. I would love to have Raul and Streeter and their friends in this room. I would look at their smiles and understand their bond. And I think they would be happy that I shared this story, because we live in a world where we bury the truth. We hide our faults. We don't act enough. We let shame be the guide. And as I've learned, and we've learned, we need to have the courage to change the things we can. In my life, some of the most important people have come as life's best surprises. One of those is Carlos Cortez Young. When we bought our house in Atlanta, the owner insisted on being there when we met Carlos, who had helped around their house. With the name Carlos Cortez, I just assumed he didn't speak English and our friend wanted to help us communicate with him. Little did I know that I was about to meet one of the most kind-hearted, genuine, sensitive, complicated, protective, grateful, and courageous people I know. Who, as you can see, is a proud black man with a wonderful tooth-gapped smile. Mr. Young walked into our life and was never allowed to leave back in 2009. Not only is his English just fine, but he's the best Scrabble player I've ever met. He would tell you he's the best in the world. We often play once a week, and I can count the number of times I've won. You see, Carlos is a 400-a-game player. Carlos's life couldn't be more different from mine or our kids, but there is no one I respect more and trust. He grew up in the East Terrace of San Antonio. By the time he was in 8th grade, he was deep in gang life, hustling and selling drugs. When he was 16, his brother Jermaine was killed in a drive-by on their front porch. They never caught the killer. At 18, Carlos was in prison. Carlos has a group of friends as connected as any you will find, but too many are in prison now or dead. While serving his time, he learned how to make mattresses and play Scrabble from a longtime inmate named Indiana Slim. You see, Indiana had memorized the dictionary. In time, Carlos could be his mentor. Jan and I met Carlos 7 years ago. We spent a lot of time together. We talked about our differences, our shared thoughts, our dreams, our frustrations, our love of sports. He's really happy because he's a Spurs fan. And I love the Rangers, New York, that is, so I'm a little upset. Our work ethic, our world around us, and as different as they are, we talk about each other's journeys. Jan and I have laughed with Carlos, as have our whole family. Boy, have we laughed. He thinks I'm funny, or at least I hope he does. We've shared life's deepest hopes and dreams, and we've embraced him when another friend of his falls to the streets of San Antonio. In 2011, in June, Carlos self-published a book. When he came out of prison, he promised himself he would honor his brother Maine. And while he originally thought he would revenge his death, he took another path. He spent a year writing his story about gang life on the East Terrace, losing his brother, going to prison, learning Scrabble, leaving prison, getting shot, losing friends, and coming to Atlanta to visit his sister, where he decided to put down his guns and drugs and honor Jermaine by living. Carlos has taught me so much, but nothing more than that good that lives inside of people. And it's okay to go through life satisfied with nothing. I asked Carlos to think about his last lecture, and here's what he shared. Never quit, no matter how hard it will get. Look at every opportunity as if it's your last. Put expectations on yourself, because you will never live up to anyone else's. Never forget where you come from, and always lend someone a hand who is less fortunate. Nothing is promised in life. My last lecture is to share the words of others, and Carlos's words are as authentic as invaluable as any I know. As I get closer to the end here, I hope something I've shared with you today or tonight may be worth remembering or may inspire you. But before I close, I want you to know my dad, Jed Simmons. His life truly was that of a kid's dream realized. An only child raised by Jewish immigrants in New York and then Rhode Island. My grandparents were simple, traditional, loving Eastern Europeans who could never have imagined the life he would have, the people he would meet, the world he would visit, and the impact he would have. Dad loved everything about sports, to play it, to read it, to listen to it, and to write it. He wasn't good enough to make the Coast Guard baseball team, but that didn't stop him. He became the team manager. He was so good as the editor of the Coast Guard sports pages that the service never let him leave the base in Cape May. For that, I'm really happy, as it was the Korean War. When I was a kid growing up, he was a giant in his industry of sports television. My dad lived at the top of his profession. As the head of NBC Sports, the first CEO of ESPN, and even the commissioner of a sports league. It was awesome growing up with his son. Thanks to him, I was in Yankee Stadium when Reggie Jackson hit 3 home runs in a World Series game. I was there when the Rangers in '94 won the Stanley Cup finally. We did a father-son trip to watch Magic beat Larry Bird in 1979 Final Four. And we lived in New York as kids growing up. My parents had parties at our house where Sandy Koufax and Tony Kubek and even Mickey Mantle would stop by. As a high school kid and college kid, I worked Super Bowls, and the best 2 things I can remember is we always had sports on during dinner. We could watch it on TV. And I was in the control room up in Bristol when ESPN went on the air. These were incredible days, but they're not my dad's gifts for me. Dad was not the best student in the world. He got asked to leave one college for poor grades and too much poker, and barely made it through the University of Alabama. While the classroom wasn't for him, he was a good leader and someone who people wanted to be around. But what I learned more from my dad than anything else was to care about people. He had this incredible ability to respect, influence, and love those around him. His greatest love was for that of my mom, who's here tonight, and us kids and our children and his closest friends. He was genuinely interested in the lives of those he knew and just met. As one friend of mine wrote after he died, he always made me feel like I was a success. Your dad was the best promoter of self-confidence. He engaged us as peers, not just a friend of yours. He was a real guidepost, a beacon, a listener, an influence in our lives. I wonder what my dad's last lecture would be. I meant to skip to that one. I wonder what my dad's lecture could be. Obviously, I couldn't ask him, and I can only speculate. I think he talked about a career in sports and TV and the great industry he helped shape. He would talk about the events and the people he met, hired, developed, empowered, and mentored. But most importantly, I think his last lecture would be stories that would exemplify a person who truly loved his career. Dad would talk about having strong values and sticking to them, even when the world of sport and TV tried to force him to do otherwise. I think he would encourage us to listen to our heart, even when your head, parents, advisors, and society tells you otherwise. His heart was all sports and nothing else mattered. He took risks to stay in, and as a result, he helped shape it. The world of sports is better because of it, and so are we. And lastly, I think he would tell you to have fun in what you're doing or get out. Something he had to do a couple of times. Lastly, he would share about my mom and how supportive she was with him in his career and how much he loved her even though they struggled at times. He would talk about his long trips away from his family, putting work before home. And I think he would talk about it with some amount of regret as he got older and realized what he missed. We would tell him it was okay, and that the only regret was we lost him earlier than we wanted to. The thought of a last lecture is a powerful one. Randy Pausch, who started this, delivered something that is forever worth watching. I hope I have honored him and those who have come before me as Chiron honors. I'm having an incredible life and am so inspired by others. I hope I've honored a few today, and for the others I know I could have kept going. Before I wrap, I want to thank all of you guys for being here. I want to thank those who nominated me and chose me. I hope I did okay. I want to thank the students, many that are here from Econ 125 and 327 and Deb's JMOC classes that have joined me in the first part of my teaching journey. I especially want to thank Julia Sprunk-Gumbels, who is both a friend and thought partner, and the reason, along with Ella, that I'm here at UNC. I want to thank Buck, who's been my classroom guidepost and now partner in inspiring entrepreneurship to all of you. And I want to thank Bernard, Jan, Jim, Judith, Laura, Michelle, Pat, Ted, Charles, Venkat, Matt Nally, and the rest of all of you guys that are helping building a great program here. Finally, the piece of wisdom, the final sharing comes from me. Some in this room might have noticed that it's all about a bunch of guys, not many women. I've worked around and learned from some incredible women, but it happens to be that mine has been mostly influenced by men. It's definitely a sign of the industry and the times that I came from. I think it will not be the same, and I hope it won't be the same for you guys. Now that said, my life and wisdom have been deeply influenced by women. I have two sisters who are very independent and strong. And if you know about my dad and my family, will always know that my mom, Harriet, held us all together and we had plenty of splinters to put together. In another time, my mom would have been a surgeon or a professor. She lost her dad young, lacked a strong mom, and found her way to true love and a life she would not replace. So much of my curiosity in the world and desire to explore. No. Very impressive test. So much of my curiosity in the world and desire to explore and come from my mom. From here I have learned curiosity, adventure, and the gift of words, among so many things. For that and so much more, she is my foundation. And like my dad, I got lucky when I married her. And I got really lucky when she said, of course, to that question we want to ask. This talk is about what learnings and wisdom I can share with all of you. My greatest words are simple, and these are my words. Take your time in meeting your partner. Don't ask for the bumps, but when they come, embrace them and see how you do together. Wonder what it would like to be a partner. Your life ahead will be shaped by many things. You get to choose some and others will just happen. Jan and I have been married for 22 years. We lived in 5 cities and too many houses to count. We built our family and supported each other. We've given each other the gift of kids, family, home, and last year a puppy. We've fought, we've cried, we've rebounded, we've embraced, we've laughed, we've loved. And we've shared. Most of all, we've been vulnerable and we've been honest with each other. She is my partner. Her wisdom tops all. I hope you guys get to find the same. Thank you. See, I'm not a very good producer of my own stuff. I think I missed out on a couple of slides, but I think you guys got the words are sometimes better than the pictures. I think Abby asked me if I want to do a few questions. I'm happy to take them. I'm happy for you guys to leave if you want to go. It's a busy week. We got finals coming, lots of stuff. So, any questions, fire away. You don't have to. I know Bernard will ask one, but nobody else does. So. Go ahead.
You mentioned a lot of people that move back and go to work together. How do you stay in touch with them, or do you travel and see them? Do you try to once a month on a phone call?
Yeah, so, there's the real and then there's the fake. And I can tell you that I have some friends, I would not call them friends as much anymore, who I know they do dialing rolling, right? They basically go to the contact us and every couple of months they just call a friend or a person just to check in. And you know that's not really authentic. I actually do it, my greatest time for doing it is on my long drives, of which I have many. So one is, I usually just think about a friend or two that I think would be great to be in touch with and talk to, and that's oftentimes when I do it. The other thing is I'm really lucky that I go to a lot of places. And oftentimes a lot of friends are now dispersed in a lot of cities. And so I really go out of my way, never have business dinners, and always see friends at night. And that's probably been one of my favorite things I've been able to keep up with in the way I've done. Go ahead.
So, being in class and seeing how you react to all of the guys, how do you keep up, just stay calm? You keep up with so much information, so many people, and tie it all out.
Yeah, I think, it's a really good question. If I go back to Peter Palmisano's, and I really mean this for you guys, if you take anything out of here, it's how to become indispensable. And I think that, if you look at Peter's point about having a foundation and skills that make you indispensable, I'm not saying that I am, but the one thing I feel pretty confident about is the foundation that I have. Foundation of knowledge around the industry that I'm in, foundation of the relationships that I built that I can draw on, foundation of the values that I care about, and I hope that I've not strayed too far from them, if at all. And a foundation, I hope, that, and it's mostly through my kids and through a generation that I'm meeting through them, that I have some sense of what is relevant and matters to the students. And last thing I'd say is, look at my mom, it probably comes back to my own curiosity, right? I'm a curious person, and so nobody wants to be curious with me. I'll be curious for myself in my own class. But the good news is, I think we're finding that students are really curious as well. Others? Go ahead.
What made you want to transition from a career in media and entertainment to teaching?
I don't know that I necessarily wanted to. I think, like the rest of the things I've done in my life, it was just presented. And it actually, I think my youngest Xander says that around the planet we're all 1/16th connected. We're all relatives 1/16th away. Now some math major in the room might tell me how long I am on that. But a lot of it is just presented. And when this opportunity got presented to Jan and I to think about the opportunity to teach full time as opposed to just come in and drop in classes, which I've always loved to do when I hope I was okay at doing, was just one of those things where even though right now my industry could not be more on fire. You know, I joke about the VR thing that I started with, but no industry right now is more exciting than the emergence and continued explosion of what we call media and technology together, right? And so the truth is the natural path was to do that, but sometimes you get presented with something, and in this case it came because of Julia. As I said, the connection, you know, always leads to the next thing. We just looked at it, Jan and I just looked at it and said, you know what, it might be something that we do in our 60s, but heck, we'd be way better at doing it in our 50s, so we said, why not?
Any regrets?
You know, I asked that question of others. I think one regret is I didn't take enough photos with my dad when he was dying. Now I long for a couple of photographs with my mom and dad. Jana's done this recently with her parents. And so I would tell you guys, take more photos with your parents, as awful as that may sound. I probably regret some relationships that I've lost, and maybe not because of anything that we've done, but just they slipped away. I regret probably more than anything I can think of off the top of my head. I regret sometimes that we left London. And Jan and I talk about this a lot because we had built an incredible life there. And at the time, right, this is the other thing for all of us, right? At the time, that decision was made by a lot of things. When I look back on that, I think I regret that maybe we didn't stay there. Probably the last one we, again, you can tell all of my family ones, I don't know that I regret business decisions too often. Maybe I could say I regret not going to work at Google and waiting a year versus going to work at Excite. I'd say probably there's some question of regret, a question around how often we move. Even though I'm an adventurer, I love change. I don't know if that would be a regret, but it's certainly something I think a lot about. Jake?
Aside from VR, like, what is something that you've been thinking about recently in terms of business or just?
You got to come take 327 and get that answer. Come on, you got to stay back for a year. You know, look, the world of and a couple in the room to join me on this. You know, the world has dramatically changed. You know, Facebook is an incredible power machine, and it is not to be taken away. It was only, 10 years ago or so, probably people were wondering what Facebook would become. Now it's becoming something that I think is going to be a platform of so many different things. And by the way, they'll play in the VR game. I think there's a huge challenge for you guys, less so than when I was growing up, or certainly when my parents were growing up, about how do you filter information, right? In the age of abundance, how do you not feel overwhelmed and decide what's the right voice to listen to, or what's the right source? Is it a validated source, right? I mean, there's an incredible amount of abundance that you guys, and we all have coming in terms of information. The question is can we actually know which of the sources to go to and which of the ones to rely on? And can we go deep enough, right? I myself do a lot of snacking. I don't know that I do a lot of long dinners, right? Other things include live, right? Every one of these has a positive, right? Periscope, or Facebook Live, and all these things are going to change the way that we consume and where we're getting it from and who delivers it to us. Again, in the age of abundance and the question around verification and all these other things, there's another side of live that I think is going to ask a lot of questions. And the last thing is, do we have a world that the economics can work in all of this stuff? We talked about it in our class, and the advertising industry is going to be turned upside down more than it is today. And, what are the economics going to be? There's only 3 networks, and there was 200 cable channels, so it's pretty clear. In this world, it's pretty hard to understand what the economics is. That said, the opportunities are on the way. Okay? Matt, Thomas.
What's left to live, learn, read, and see?
Let's see, 1C, community gift, go public. see communicate go public? You know what? I think I would go back to my statement about Fred. At 64, this guy's living more than anybody, you know, that in my world. I think if I ever feel that I'm bored or boring, then it's time for me to make a change. I do think that we could build an incredible life here. I think we could build, I hope I can be good enough, if not hopefully a great teacher, and mentor and thought partner for lots. I mean, I think as a teacher, I suspect one day one of my greatest pleasures will come when somebody comes up to me the way I've come up to teachers that I know and say, you had one of the largest impacts on my life, whatever it was, whatever I did with them. And that part I'm trying to figure out now. I mean, as I said, I'm only a year into this, so I feel far away from being deserving or bored or knowing where it's going to lead. But I think right now I've got plenty to do and keep growing with it.
In your talk, you talked about so much about all the other people that have helped you in your life. You kind of had that outlook of like, I want to meet a lot of people, or be influenced by a lot of people, and learn from people when you're younger, or something you kind of learned along the way.
You know, it's really interesting. I mean, remember, our generation, as you guys heard, and I'm not trying to sound, dated, didn't grow up with LinkedIn, right? So you guys have an incredibly powerful tool at your hands. Now, the truth is the other side of that tool is everybody can be reached out on LinkedIn. So how do you break through the filter? For me, I think I just was, again, I was a social person who was curious. I love to meet somebody and follow up. I'm sure they came from good parents, from my parents. But more importantly than that, I just felt like, and this is true, it was way unplanned, right? If I look at one of my skills, one of my assets, if I look at my life that way, is these relationships that I built are real and they're deep. And whatever I did right when I go back to being 22, when I first met some of my greatest, closest friends who've gone on to other unbelievable lives in a lot of different ways, still come back from that day when I walked into ABC. I just built authentic, real relationships, whether it was somebody I was working with or somebody that I met. And by the way, there were many that probably didn't like me, and I certainly didn't like them. But I look back at that and I said I was just going to become something I was going to continue to do. And I think I look back on it now, I guess in some ways I'm a living LinkedIn. But I just think it's something, and by the way, we had somebody down recently who went through an incredible experience, talked about it in our class. And when asked that same question, he said, look, I will give you guys, the one piece of advice I'd give you in your career would be figure out how to connect, right? And again, LinkedIn is one way, but figure out how to connect. I will tell you, if I would hammer on anything so far that I've spent in my 9 months around students so far, is are you guys doing enough, not just trying to connect, but are you doing enough to follow up? And follow up comes a lot of different ways, and I will tell you, you guys are in an incredible position because all of us that have done things love the opportunity to sit with people that are excited about our industry or interested in us. But boy, the follow-up, if it doesn't work, you are just going to get swept, and we're just not going to be interested. We're going to move on, because guess what? There's 10 more people that have reached out on LinkedIn, and those we're going to pay attention to. Anybody else? Think back here.
I was going to ask you what your biggest challenge was entering academia and being in industry.
So the biggest challenge was the fact that I had no idea what to do once it came past the first class, and how to continue to maintain. But you guys would imagine that. What I really found is the overwhelming amount of work. Again, I think this comes back to Bryce, that I was only going to do it if I could be excellent. Even though maybe I'm not as prepared as I would often like to be, as some of you might have seen in the last minute moving things around, is that the hardest thing for me was how excellent and how prepared I wanted to be, yet I didn't really know how to do that. And the good thing is I know how to do really well, is I found thought partners in it, whether it was Deb or Charles or Bernard or Venka, just asked the question, not planted, on how to do this, or a great TA. That's been the hardest. That's been the hardest piece for me. The rest of it, I've just loved.
Now that you've won this award, are you going to top yourself next to it?
In the old commercial days, say go to Disneyland, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to wonder how I got this one and not worry about any other ones. I think for me, it's the other challenge. I mean, this, as you guys can tell, had nothing to do with me as a teacher. They had everything to do with my life and the things that I feel are important. And so, if you ever hear me walking around saying that I'm nominated for something, you vote for me, please shoot me. So, again, I was surprised by this. It's a cool award. It's an amazing group of other professors that have gotten it, and there are many well-deserving, including some in this room. And so, with that, I'm going to close. All right, thank you guys for being here.
Really quickly, I'd just like to first say that someday someone in this room is going to say the same exact thing about you, might embarrass you to say that it's true, and if you flip your thing around and read on the inside, there's some words, yeah, who printed that, I don't know. There's some nice quotes, nomination forms, just about how, there's no one like you here. I think that's true. We have so many great professors here at UNC, and you are one of them. Even in 2 semesters you are. Anyway, that's it. We have some lemonade that is already gone. I'm not at that, but you can have the rest of it if you want. Thank you for coming.